Good afternoon, Mr. Kumar. Thank you so much for taking the time from your very busy schedule to grant us this interview.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Can you, sir, explain your mission and history of the founding of the Amnesty International USA?
Amnesty International is a worldwide organization. We started in 1961 in London, and we are spread to be in numerous countries around the world. And Amnesty USA is one of the places we are active.
What are the missions?
Our Amnesty International is working on freeing political prisoners, stopping torture, releasing. You want me to start? This is a fire brigade. Okay.
Start on the mission.
Yeah, Amnesty International work primarily to release political prisoners, stop torture, work on refugees, and also economic and social rights. So we work on all the human rights issues around the world.
So you have worked in several Asian and African countries and served as a human rights monitor in many Asian countries as well as Bosnia, Haiti, Guatemala, South Africa. Can you tell us if there is any human rights monitoring in Vietnam since the communist government see the power? If so, can you share with us the report of this work?
Amnesty International monitors human rights directly and from outside. If a country does not allow you to go into the country, then we monitor from outside by interviewing people who come outside the country. So as far as Vietnam is concerned, we have been monitoring the situation, but access to the country has been limited to us. So that has created some difficulties, but we are able to overcome by interviewing a lot of people and cross-checking the facts.
So what is the report? Even you have limited access, but how's the report come out?
Overall, the report was not encouraging. There are political prisoners in Vietnam. Religious persecution goes around, as well as the minorities. The different minority ethnic groups, religious groups face abuses there.
Thank you, sir. I think she here, somebody here.
Who?
I think the girl here, I don't think
No,
so.
don't.
Somebody else, okay. So South Vietnamese force were defeated by Communist North. There was thousands of military officers and former government employees of the South in the re-education camp after the war. Do you think these people should consider as prisoners of war?
As far as the international standards are concerned, when an active duty police officer, military officers, or the government officials who have been arrested should be given protection under the Vienna Convention, and they will have to be given protection as prisoners of war.
So in this so-called re-education camp, captives were tortured physically and mentally. They were isolated, starved, and received no medical care for their ailment. Many of them died and were buried secretly without notifying their family. Do you think this is a violation of the Geneva Convention agreement regarding to prisoners of war? Can you elaborate it?
We don't have specific information about what happened in these camps, but if this would have happened in Vietnam during that time, then it's definitely violation of international laws, especially the law of war.
So for many years, the Vietnamese Communist government repeatedly denied the presence of any political prisoner in Vietnam until letters from such prisoners crying for help.
I think that's her.
Maybe her.
From
many years, the Vietnamese Communist government repeatedly denied the presence of any political prisoners in Vietnam until letters from such prisoners crying for help were secretly smuggled out. I understand Al has helped in identifying this matter with other agencies and NGOs such as the International Red Cross, U.S. state government, etc. Since the Vietnam government has finally admitted that such political prisoners exist, are you involved in such efforts, and if so, if you could give us an account of such efforts?
Usually Amnesty International, when we confirm that there are political prisoners in any country, then we publicize that account, saying that there are so many prisoners. If you don't know the exact number, we can say scores of prisoners. And whatever information we have, after we verify, we publicize. That's the first step we do. The second step we do is to encourage and to inform other international organizations like UN, ICRC and other groups to take action, as well as foreign governments, international community to take action. So that's what we do on any political prisoner anywhere in the world. And for ICRC, International Committee of the Red Cross, we would also urge them to visit these prisoners, to check about their condition and to do their work. ICRC has special obligation to work with prisoners.
Thank you. Many political prisoners died in prison and their families were not notified. There are still families searching for their loved ones even though war ended almost 40 years ago. Can you share your thoughts on this matter?
If there are people who have died, it should be an international responsibility for the governments to notify and to work with the ICRC and others to return the body. So if this is the situation, which unfortunately we could not able to confirm, if that's the situation, then it's a serious violation of international norms and human rights.
Thank you. Conditions for family members of political prisoners were not much better. Family members were not allowed to hold public jobs. Their children were prohibited from receiving a higher education simply because their father or mother was a political prisoner. Can you comment on this matter?
Collective punishment in any form is something Amnesty International opposes it. Collective punishment means if one member of the family does a mistake, the whole family should not be persecuted or abused in any form. If the father does the mistake, children should not be abused or discriminated. So if that's our position, and we strongly oppose these type of collective punishments around the world.
Thank you. Many family members of political prisoners were forced out of their homes into new economic zones where civilian services were non-existent. They had to build their own homes without any building supplies, dig their own wells, and cultivate the land without the most basic tools. Many of these individuals died while many others went back to the city and had no homes because their residents were taken over by the government. Could you comment on this?
It all boils down again to collective punishment and the treatment of released prisoners, how they have been treated. So again, if this practice persisted, then it's a serious violation of human rights and international norms.
Hundreds of writers and artists from South Vietnam were also arrested and imprisoned without trial. Many died in prison. How does this issue affect Amnesty?
I mean, again, these people were arrested not because of any reason other than for political reason. So these people will be considered political prisoners. And Amnesty International always urges governments to try them in a fair manner if there is any crime or any violations took place. Otherwise, release them without any condition. So we are concerned that these practices took place and we campaigned against those things.
We understand that in many cases, Al has been a voice for these political prisoners. Can you share a case that stands out the most for you?
I can't think of any cases off the top of my head, but we have worked on numerous political prisoner cases in Vietnam. For them to be first, while they are in prison, to be treated in a fair manner. Second, to call for their release if they have not committed any abuses and violations against the local law.
Thank you. There are still many political prisoners imprisoned for over 30 years, and about 600 political prisoners are in the prisons as we speak. I understand that Al has been in talks with the Vietnam government, but thus far has made little progress. Could you explain more about this?
I mean, we are not allowed in so far in an official capacity to Vietnam to investigate abuses in that country. But we communicate to Vietnamese authorities directly in foreign capitals, like in Washington and other places, as well as through governments like US and other governments. So we have been raising these issues to ensure that the remaining political prisoners should be released immediately and future arrest of political prisoners should stop. So that's something we have been doing it for some time.
The subject of the following questions occurred in the distant past. We understand that you may have not been with Al at the time, but we hope that you may understand some knowledge of these subjects. The first were there any human rights monitoring in North and South Vietnam before 1975?
During that time, the access to the country must have been limited, even though we were. But we definitely were monitoring through different channels and bring about abuses by all the parties who were involved. So we were there, not inside, but we were actively promoting the issue outside the borders.
We have interviewed men from North Vietnam, and they shared with us horrific stories about human rights violations after the communist government came into power in the North. Do you know if such issues were reported to Amnesty International during the time of the takeover?
It's very difficult for me to say at this moment whether they were reported. But as an international human rights organization, we have been campaigning and advocating for abuses committed in Vietnam at that time. So whether we got reports from these individuals or how we got the information, I'm not sure, but definitely we were campaigning at that time.
Can you share with us your thoughts about current human rights issues in Vietnam today?
Currently, there are political prisoners in Vietnam. There is religious persecution going on. Ethnic minorities face abuses. Rule of law is a concern to us. Prison conditions are also of concern to us. And also, they are not allowing international monitors inside the country.
So after the communist government came into power, the opportunity to rebuild was lost. So how would we overcome this, or how do you feel about this matter?
About the question will not go into the camera. This your answer is relevant. When after the war, they put good people in the prison. People have skill. People in the working age in prison instead of let them a chance to work to rebuild the country. So eventually, obviously, Vietnam lost the opportunity to reunite their own people and rebuild the country together. Just like in the United States after Civil War.
Yes, Civil War. Yeah. So you want me to comment on that?
Yes.
It's a political question.
Yeah.
It's not a human rights question. So I will not be able to respond. If that has happened, it's unfortunate. The country lost more than anything.
That's all we need you to say.
Yeah.
So you can answer that.
If that's what happened, that the victors in any war did not utilize their power they had after winning by uniting the country, that is actually a loss to that country more than anything. Because they have not only kept people away, but they are also keeping talented people away. So it's very unfortunate if that would have been the case.
That's wonderful.
Is it okay?
Yes.
Do you want to add or anything to share or something that we didn't ask that you want to let us know?
Amnesty International has been working on Vietnam and other countries for a long time, for years. And we want to ensure that the government of Vietnam take immediate steps to release political prisoners, stop persecution against religious minorities, and other abuses against political opponents. That's what we want Vietnam to take steps. That's when Vietnam will be considered a responsible partner in the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one. I forgot to ask you to. When we interview with slave by asking, "What is your name and can you state your profession?" Can you ask
Yeah.
them that? Can you tell your name and your profession?
Okay. Can you please name
Yeah.
your name and your profession, please?
My name is Kumar. I am the Director for International Advocacy for Amnesty International USA.
Can you give a little more background or ask him that how you come before what you do before you come to this organization, what you have done, and a little bit background.
So before you came to Amnesty International, what were you involved in and how does this relate to the work you do now?
I'm a lawyer by profession, and I worked on refugee camps and refugee ships around the world, as well as served as a human rights monitor in different countries, in different parts of the world. So that's why I got related to this one. And I also worked at the UN for some time.
And
Do you want to
as we believe you were a prisoner before. Can you elaborate by
So I understand that you were a prisoner before, and can you elaborate on this experience and what that has give you understanding for your current work?
I was a political prisoner for more than 5.5 years. And that brought me some understanding of what's happening on the other side, what people undergo when they are political prisoners. Political prisoners are the people who have done work for political reasons and they were arrested for political reasons. So that experience pretty much gives me some meaning and understanding about what's happening to people around the world who have been abused for political reasons. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your
Sure, thanks.